Hello everyone. Yes, I'm back. Introductions first. My name is Gerard, or Peter, or Boniface. I live in Abingdon-on-Thames in Oxfordshire in the south of England with my two cats, Toby and Bunty, and my flatmate. And I crochet and knit and weave and spin and sew and do anything basically that is somehow fibre related. I want to start off, first of all, by thanking everyone who left comments either on my little YouTube explanation of my absence, as it were, over the last couple of months, but also on the Ravelry page thread that was set up. For those of you who are not aware, I had major surgery, emergency surgery, about 5 weeks ago. I had an inflamed and infected gallbladder, which was disintegrating, and I also had stones in my bile duct, which was causing jaundice, and so I had to have lots of procedures and open surgery to remove the gallbladder and to pull out all the stones and all the other icky stuff that goes on. It was a long operation. It was about a 6-hour operation, all told. And although the scar is healed, the 10-inch scar that's now traversing my body has healed quite quickly, it's still, I have quite a lot of inflammation and bruising inside still. So it's recovering, but it's going to take a few more weeks yet before I'm fully back to fitness. And one of the things that I had the operation on the Thursday afternoon, so I spent the Friday, Saturday and Sunday in hospital, and then on the Monday morning I was discharged because I was making such good recovery. Because hospitals are for acute care rather than nursing care in the way that they used to be. It's more about, if the acute side of things has been dealt with, then you can go home because you'll actually recover better at home than you would in a hospital bed, is the thinking. And I think, broadly speaking, that's probably true. In my particular instance, I had been given quite a lot of morphine over the week that I was in hospital because I was in a lot of pain, including, obviously, after the surgery when I had one of those little clicker things. And possibly combined with my other medication for my mental health, I became quite spaced out on the Saturday and Sunday. It was, particularly the Saturday, it was quite bad. I cut down the amount of morphine I gave myself, as it were, on the Sunday, but on the Saturday I wasn't really fully aware of everything. So when I was sent home on the Monday, I had really quite a bad kind of crash from the high, from the morphine, and it left me feeling quite wretched, to be honest. I've never used illegal drugs, so I've never experienced either a chemical high or the resulting low that follows immediately afterwards. Although I guess that's what it was. And so the Monday and the Tuesday at home, in particular, I was quite emotional and teary and quite depressed and sad, very deeply sad. It was a very unpleasant experience. But one of the things that really helped me through that were all the very positive messages of prayers and positive thoughts that were being sent my way, for which I remain eternally grateful, in fact. And on that particular, and they're going to hate that I do this, but on that particular subject, Bob and Wendy in particular have been a tremendous support for me through this process. Bob had had the same surgery just 2 months before, and so knew some of what I was going through. But they have been solicitous. They've taken me out. I go out for a walk every day just to build up strength and get out of the mentality of staying enclosed in my little world in here, which is a beautiful little world, and I could quite happily stay in here, but it's not the best way to recuperate from a serious illness. And their support has been, if ever you have friends, genuine friends, who will do anything for you at the times you most need it, hold on to those people as tightly as you can. They are worth their weight in every precious metal and stone that you can think of combined. I can't thank them enough for what they've done over the last couple of months for me. it's been quite humbling, and I'm very, very grateful to them. So anyway, so thank you all for your support. Generally, I am feeling a lot better. I still get very tired. I'm not yet back at work because, well, there's a number of reasons, but not least that my job involves climbing in and out of vehicles and stretching and pulling and all the rest of it. And at the moment, I'm physically not really supposed to be doing that kind of thing. Although everything is settling down, it's still quite bruised. There's still quite a lot of inflammation. I don't want to risk pulling something and setting back the recovery. So at the moment, I'm still off work, which has given me a lot more time to do craft-related things. Although at the same time, I have been very tired, so I do the craft stuff. But one of the advantages of crafting is the mindfulness, if you like, the repetitive activity that allows you to relax. One of the problems with relaxing is that it can make me very sleepy, so I end up doing maybe half an hour of crochet and then I just want to fall asleep. So that's what's been happening. So I have been doing craft, and it's been very therapeutic doing craft, but I've not necessarily done as much craft as the amount of time I have available to me would suggest, perhaps. Anyway, so without any further ado, I do have, in fact, though, a couple of finished objects. So the first one, I was watching the Grocery Girls, I think it was the Grocery Girls, and Tracy had been sent, because Tracy likes to use linen in her knitting. Excuse me a second, I'll just have a drink of water. Because Tracy likes to use linen to make bags and so on, she was sent by a distributor in the States, I think, some yarn called banana yarn. Now, it's not made from bananas, either the fruit or the skin of the fruit, but is actually a process, I believe, that involves stripping the bark off the banana plant itself and turning that into fibres. And there is a UK distributor of this yarn, and the company is actually called, I'll see if I can get that in, yes, yarnyarn.co.uk. I don't know if I'm going to, it doesn't, because I'm there, it wants to focus on me. But that's the name of the company, it's yarnyarn.co.uk. And I bought 200 grams because I thought 100 grams would, it's a chunky weight yarn. And when I got it, I noticed it's a very thick and thin chunky weight yarn. So it's created by a cooperative of women in East India who strip the bark, presumably, and then process it and turn it into a yarn. But because it's a bark-based yarn, it's quite heavy. So it's chunky and heavy. So 100 grams was about 11-12 meters. So it's not very long. So I decided I was going to try and make a market bag out of it, but I felt it was too stiff. It was too strong for a market bag because it wouldn't be flexible enough to fold up into a small item. So what I noticed was that when I caked it up and when I was working on the process of, if I had put it down, Toby immediately went and sat on it. And I thought, well, this is interesting because he normally won't, he knows to leave my yarn alone. He's a very good cat, and so is Bunty. But Toby is the one who is more inquisitive and is more likely to interfere with my yarn, perhaps. So I thought, well, okay, if Toby likes the yarn that much, I'll make a mat for him. And so I did, and I used both the, it's basically the running track style, so you do the chain and then you stitch into both sides of the chain and increase at the two ends in order to make the semicircles at the two ends, kind of thing. And this is what I made. And as you can see, it's a brilliant yellow. It's a lovely golden yellow almost, but very tonal. It's, since both the cats have really enjoyed sleeping on this, and if one of them gets up, the other one immediately nips in. So I think I'm going to have to make a second one. it's a really, really nice feel to it, and because of the warmth of the cat's bodies on it over the last week or so since I finished it, it's actually become quite malleable. So maybe it would be suitable for making into a bag, but would then have to be washed several times in order to make it soft and pliable. Because I used an 8mm hook, and you can see some of the yarn is very thin, and then some of it becomes quite thick. So it's a very thick and thin kind of twist. But it's really nice. I really enjoyed doing it. It's quite robust. It stands up to them putting their paws into it and massaging it the way that cats do with both their paws. And it just, in fact, Toby has tried pulling it around. I think it's a bit too heavy for him, but he has tried pulling it around to where he wants to sit. So it's, I'll put some photos in of the two cats sitting on the mat, just showing that they really do enjoy using it. In fact, I think I've got a video of Bunty on the mat, but anyway, I'll put something in here so that you can see the mat in action. So that was yarnyarn.co.uk, and I can thoroughly recommend it. Added bonus was, I think it was a 25% off if I signed up for their newsletter as well, which was very welcome. So well worth a visit if you're Europe-based. I would guess that the mailing over to the States or to Australia would probably be too much for the value of the item, which was my concern about the suggestion from Tracy of the supplier in the States was that I'd be paying more for the yarn to be imported than the yarn was actually costing me. So it was good to find a UK distributor. So excuse me a second. So that's one finished object. I have a second finished object, which is somewhere around me here. There it is. Sorry about that. I put it in a plastic bag because I was taking it out and it was raining on the day I was taking it out. I've been quite intrigued by Filet Crochet for a little while, and I wanted to try it out because Filet Crochet is basically the original purpose of crochet, which was as a cheaper, quicker alternative to lace making. And so Filet Crochet uses cotton threads and small hooks, and basically is a grid setup. I want to explain this properly. So there are 3 stitches for every square, so it's a lot of squares going along to create a picture. And where the square is blank, it's a treble crochet, UK terms, treble crochet and 2 chains. And where the square is filled in, it's 3 treble crochets into the row below. And it's that simple, really. It's just chains and treble crochets and nothing else, or double crochets if you prefer American terms. And using this, you can make quite complex pictures. And so I thought I would try making a Christmas decoration, because it's never too early to get your Christmas decorations made. And I saw this lovely Christmas tree with an angel on the top. So I can't get maybe I can get the whole thing in. From here, it looks as though you're getting a good impression of what that is, because it's quite dark behind and quite light in front. So this, I think you're also getting it possibly the wrong way around, but that's the right way around. The wrong way around for me is the right way around for you. So this is the design, and it's quite large, as you can see. I used a size 3 cotton and a 2.5mm hook. I can't remember where I got the pattern from. I got it a while ago, and I downloaded the image because it's all done using a chart, and I downloaded the image from the website concerned and put the image into a folder that I have for patterns I want to make. And of course, I've now not got any details at all about where the pattern came from. I'll see if I can find it again, and if I can, I'll put the link or the name of the pattern in here. I want to. It could be a table runner because it is cotton, so it will. It is washable and it will stand up to things being put on it, even hot things. But it could also be. I think I'd rather have it as a wall hanging, and so I went with Wendy, my ever-present and faithful companion, as it were, and we looked at various plain. Well, I had originally intended to have a green background with maybe gold dust, stardust, as it were, running through it. There's quite a few Christmas fabrics like that, and I think I've bought a fat quarter like that in the past. And then I realised that actually you weren't going to get that sense of the patterned fabric behind because of the amount of detail blocking the fabric behind. So in the end we looked at both red and green plain fabrics, and I decided to go with this scarlet. So I'm going to create a backing cloth with this scarlet, and then attach it to the panel, and then it will be properly finished. So it is a completed. It's a finished object, but it's also a work in progress because it now needs to have the extra put in. So that's my other crocheted piece of work. I do have a couple of other finished objects though, which are sewing. Sorry if I'm rattling through these, but I will talk a little bit more about the filet crochet. You may remember a while ago that I finished my weaving of this lovely chocolate and yellow panel, which is a basket weave design. And I had bought this fabric as something to match up with it in order to make a bag from it. Well, I made the bag. And this is it. So it's a project bag. I've got a lovely polka dot yellow ribbon drawstring, and it closes up quite nicely. And for the eagle-eyed among you, so this, I should say, really, oops, a daisy, sorry, I've overcompensated there. The inside is the matching fabric. So it's just it's got a nice square bottom. It's just a very simple project bag with a drawstring in the top. It was a nightmare to make. In fairness, I knew that the weaving I needed to do a zigzag on either side of where I was going to cut it, and I did that, and that was no problem. And the edges, the kind of selvage edges of the weaving were secure. This lining fabric, however, every time I cut it, the edges frayed away, and it was just coming away and was getting smaller and smaller. So in fact, by the time I'd actually sewn it all together, you'll see there are little pleats in the top where the brown and yellow was slightly bigger than the lining fabric. It's not a major problem. I don't think you'd even notice it when it's all shucked up like that, of course. So it's not something I'm losing any sleep over. I think probably the solution to that is interfacing. This bag doesn't have any interfacing. I didn't think it needed any interfacing because the weave itself is quite strong fabric, and this is quite textured fabric as well, so there's quite a lot of body in the fabrics themselves, and that was why I didn't interface it. But I think the interfacing would help to stabilize particularly the yellow fabric. So I do have enough fabric left to make a smaller bag, or possibly a bag with a bottom. Actually, would it be a smaller bag? No, it would be the same size bag. I could make the same size bag, or I could make a bag with this lining fabric as well at the bottom, giving it an extra depth. Although I think this bag is actually quite a nice size for a two-skein, two-hank, two-ball project, however you want to describe it. So I do have enough to make another bag, and I will make another bag with it. But I think probably use interfacing on the lining, and so that will stabilize it, and I'll have fewer of the problems that I had with this particular one, and possibly even make that a zipper bag as well, because I have started making zipper bags, and they look more complete, I think, when they're zippered. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed this little item, and if I bring it closer, you'll be able to see it's actually the Hand-Me-Downs logo. So I've finished showing you that, so I might as well talk about that particular acquisition, which is here. I have a little box of these. There's about 25 in there. Well, there's 24 left. There should be. And they all have the logo on, Hand-Me-Downs. And these were cut for me by a company in, I think, Kent. Let me just put my glasses on, my new glasses. My new reading glasses. The company's called Lasercraft and is run by a married couple, or at least they have the same surname, so I assume they're a married couple. I suppose they could be brother and sister, is equally possible. And they make all kinds of different tags and buttons using lasers. So all I had to do was send a vector graphic of my logo, and they were able to transfer that into their system to cut the laser tag for me. And again, it shows you on the back all the different kinds of objects that they can make for you. So I can thoroughly recommend it. It wasn't very expensive, and it just adds that little finishing touch, I think, to the product. So that it's very much made by me, kind of thing. So it's just a nice little, as I say, it's very discreet, but it's just a nice little finishing touch up in the top corner there. So there we are. That's not the only finished objects I have. The other finished objects are a pair. So I have the finished bag, project bag, with a zipper and a lovely green lining inside. So my very summery project bag and my very summery notions pouch, and in the notions pouch I have some stitch markers, some bobbins, a pair of scissors and a tape measure, and these are going to be part of the prize for the summer make-along. Yes, I haven't forgotten about the summer make-along. So I just think that these colours together really sum up summer. So with those will be sent some cotton yarn as well. I did have some other cotton yarn, and I've put it down somewhere and I can't find it. And it was before I installed the cupboard behind me, which is the elephant in the room that I'll talk about later. But I saw these two online and I thought, yes, I really quite like those, and they're quite summery. So I've got this Debbie Bliss Lolly, and it's in her bubblegum colourway. If I hold up the end of the, is it showing, or am I blocking it again? I think you might be able to see that it is actually, no, it's trying to focus on me, sadly. It's a chain construction cotton, so it's really soft. These will be going as well into the prize package. So, without any further ado, let me open up, first of all, sorry, there it is. Let me open up, first of all, the random number generator. There we go. And I will type in the numbers 2 to 18 because that's how many people completed the make-along. Number 9 is me, so if number 9 comes up as the random number, then I will reissue the random number. So I'm going to press it now. Number 1 can't win. So number 10 is the winner. So let me see who is number 10 on Ravelry. Bear with me a second. This is all very exciting. Do we have a drum roll? Let's go to the group and to the Summer Make Along finished objects. And number 10 is Nina Camilleri with her little cat in a yellow summer dress. And you hope that that counts as a summer make. Well, I have to say, I really think it does. So this is the beautiful prize winner. Whoops. So congratulations, Nina. If you can private message me on Ravelry and send me your address, I will get your prizes sent to you in the post. So well done, and well done to everybody who did take part, and I hope you all enjoyed the little summer make along. I'm sorry I wasn't able to kind of G people along with my absence, but I noticed that there was a lot of chatter going on and that people were getting involved and making things. I have a little, on the subject of the summer make along, I have a little revelation to make. One of the people who posted an item, a finished item, has the username This Robert. This Robert is my good friend Bob from next door, and he completed this beautiful piece of bunting, which is sorry, I just want to, there we are, get the reflection off the screen. I will put some photos in here because Wendy and I have played a little trick on poor Bob, because Wendy is still quite annoyed that Bob sent some pictures of her that I put in the... I mean, I don't think annoyed in the sense of, you know, it's the end of the world, but she's very shy, and so she didn't like the fact that he'd sent some pictures of her that I included in the podcast without her knowing. So we're returning the favour. I will put in a little montage now of pictures of Bob at work creating his bunting. I have to say, this is his first sewn project, and it looks brilliant. He die cut the letters. It looks like he used felt and then stuck them on to the triangles after he'd sewn them, and then used bias binding to make the tape that goes along the top. So, I mean, a very simple construction, but he's done the whole of the process himself, and I'll put the little clip in here of the montage. So sorry, Bob. I hope you're not too angry with Wendy and I, but we just wanted to celebrate what you've been doing as well. So there was, oh yes, there is something else. I opened a separate thread in Ravelry, so I'll just go back into the Ravelry. I opened a separate thread for the ideas and chatter. So the FOs were just the finished objects. The other thread had chatter in it, and quite a few people have engaged in conversation. There were 37 people who left messages in the chatter thread. So again, I will put the numbers 2 to 37, and if I win, I will redraw, and this person will win a pattern up to the value of $10 US on Ravelry. So you just need to let me know, and I will click the button, and it's number 18, and number 18 sorry, this is being very slow at the moment. There we are. Number 18 is Cat Crazy Creations, who finished her first summer project for the make-along, and so much fun. Looking forward to seeing everyone's project. So as you can see, Cat Crazy Creations. If you can let me know what pattern you would like, up to, as I say, up to the value of $10 US, which is about £8 or £9 but I mean, I'm quite happy to do £10 in UK currency as well. If you let me know which pattern you would like, and I will make a gift of it to you. So there we are. So that's my 2 drawers done for this podcast. So that's the summer make-along finished now. I will think about having another make-along later in the year, probably as we approach Christmas, maybe a Christmas make-along of some kind. Any ideas, please let me know. But I think, you know, it was a nice little fun process of making things together. Oh, excuse me a second. I'm just going to have a drink of my coffee, which is in Dotty, my little sheep mug. I hope you can see. Yeah. So excuse me. Oh, very nice. So I do have another two more works in progress that I've started. One of them is from this book, the 55 Crochet Gifts for the Home. This is a book that was produced in the early 1990s, so it's 25, nearly 30 years old. But is much more, I mean, this is pre-internet, pre-YouTube, pre the rebirth, I think, of knitting and crochet and crafting around the home. So a lot of the items are very traditional items. I mean, it has, for example, an antimacassar. Now, I had completely forgotten about antimacassars. For those of you who don't know, an antimacassar is a piece of linen that lay across the back of an armchair. And it's called an antimacassar because in the 19th century, gentlemen liked to slick back their hair, and they used macassar oil to do that. And so, of course, if they sat with their head back in the chair, which is entirely possible, then all the oil would transfer from their hair into the chair itself and ruin the chair. So the linen cloth was there to prevent the macassar getting onto the chair, and so it's an anti-macassar. And very often you'll find that they're a plain linen cloth but decorated around the edges with frills and lace and that kind of thing. One of the things that this was the kind of the prompt I needed to start doing the filet crochet. Although the pattern didn't come from in here for the large item, I tried the large item first because I wanted to try my hand with a large cotton and a larger hook so that I could then miniaturize everything. Well, there is a lovely little frill edging for a cabinet. Actually, I think it's intended to be for a dresser in the kitchen, which is basically Tower Bridge, but a repeated motif of Tower Bridge. And I quite like the idea of making a single repeat of the bridge, so just between the 2 pillars. So from the beginning here, just up to this pillar here, and then stopping, so that you get just the single, if you like, just that part of the bridge as a single motif, and then maybe putting it in a frame and putting it on the wall. And I quite like the idea of doing that. So I went to Mason's, as ever you do, and I bought myself some size 40. Sorry, Bunty, you are. If it's not Toby, it's Bunty, eh? You want to sit on my lap? Well, go on then, you sit on my lap. So I bought myself, I just need to see, now there it is. It's very small. So this is size 40 cotton, as you can see. It's very, very thin. And this is a 1mm hook, and as you can see, it is very, very small. I have so far done the first pier, and I'm just up to, so I think that's the right way round. So it's got this frilly edge at this end, where I only made a mistake once, so I'm quite happy with that. And then it's got the, am I holding that? It's difficult to see if I'm holding it the right way up at the moment. Let me put it down on the chair. Right, that's the right way around. So the frilly edge goes along the bottom, that's right, because that's not in my leg, Bunty, that really hurt. Come on, move yourself. she does like to cling with her claws, and it really was sticking into my my right leg then. Anyway, sit there, that's a good girl. And so you can see that we've got the little pier there, and the cabling, as it were, the suspension cabling going around there, and I've just done the large part of the first of the two main towers within the tower. So it's going along pretty well, and you can see the construction is exactly the same as the other. It is the reason I was a bit confused is because you actually do it from side to side rather than from top to bottom. You're doing it from top to bottom and bottom to top rather than from side to side. So the construction is going up that way, and then it turns on its side and reveals the picture. So that's different from the way I did the other one. It took me a few minutes to work out how to make the little frills at the end, but I worked out for myself, which I'm very pleased with. It didn't take too much guesswork. I'm really enjoying it, and it's looking really nice, and I think backed again on a nice bit of possibly blue fabric, and I've got plenty of lovely blue fabrics, that it will look really quite spectacular when it's finished. So I'm halfway through that, more or less. Making the first, it's really quite straightforward from the second row onwards. The difficulty was actually putting the original meshwork into the foundation chain. Once I got past that and got my eye in for the tiny hook and the tiny thread, it really wasn't that difficult. I've not been using my magnifying glass. I do have it here next to me in case I should need it, but in fact just using my reading glasses has been sufficient. And I keep it all safe in my little elephant grass basket. I can't recall if I've shown this already. I think I did, but if I didn't, this is from Tobs and Raw, and they are the distributors for these. Again, this is made by a cooperative of women weavers in Ghana in this occasion, and is made from elephant grass that's got these lovely vibrant colours all the way through it. So it's a really nice little, it's just the right size for putting the work in when I carry it around if I'm going out and about. Because for those of you who follow me on Instagram will know, I tend to pop into Willow's most days of the week, which is the local shake shop in Abingdon. And I take my crochet with me, and I sit and crochet a little and have a chat with the owner and sales assistant, well, her assistant, and it's all very pleasant, and it's been very nice part of my recuperation to give myself that little treat every day. And I keep telling myself that the calcium is good for my bones. I'm getting old now, so I need to have the calcium. Do I need the glasses on? Possibly. I've got, the only other things I've got now are some acquisitions. I will talk about behind me in a moment. I bought, well, this isn't a purchase, but I think some of you may be interested to see this. This is a pattern for making a whale and a narwhal. This is a free pattern from Let's Crochet, I think. Let's Get Crafting, that's right. So you can go online, and as long as you sign up using your email address, then this is a free downloadable pattern. It's only a page long, so it's not very difficult. The whale and the narwhal are basically identical, except the whale has, at the very top, a water spout, and the narwhal, of course, has its horn coming out. So you just make those two last things separately at the end and attach them on. But basically the whale and the narwhal. So I'm quite looking forward to making some of those, because I have lots of people who like these kinds of things. So I just thought I'd show you this. So that's letsgetcrafting.com. So that's a pattern for you. And I've bought, well, I got in the post the latest edition of Block, which is a lovely magazine from Missouri Star Quilt Company. I found a UK distributor, as I've mentioned before, and so now I can get the blocks in the UK as well. And I've subscribed, so I get it all the time. And I will talk a little bit more about quilting and why I'm so pleased with getting this magazine and with Missouri Star Quilt and all the rest of it a little bit later. I bought a nice book about great projects for guys. One of the issues I have with making things is I can make things for women, but I can't make things for myself that easily, and I can't make things for my brothers and other men, like my flatmate and Bob, for example, if I want to make them gifts. So this really goes into detail on how to make ties, which is excellent. So I couldn't really get to grips with, and they even provide the patterns for it. So I'm quite looking forward to making a few things in here. There's a lovely scarf and a good messenger style bag, which I want to make as well. And I've got the right fabrics for it, so I just need to sit down and get cracking with that. And I was in Oxfam the other day. I went across the road from Willows, which is where the Oxfam shop is in Abingdon. And, well, I will introduce you. Again, those of you who follow me on Instagram will already know these two lovely birds. This is Olivia. She was bought for me by Bob while Wendy and I were in Mason's one day, and is a lovely wooden owl. And this is Willow, who is a porcelain owl. And I called her Willow because the Willow pattern is blue and white porcelain, and because she's across the road from Willow's Shake Shop, so I just felt that the name fit. And she's a really lovely bird. I will be having something to keep them all in soon, delivered, which is a piece of furniture for a wall corner cupboard that will go in the corner of the room here behind me, and I'll be able to put my little things on display, keep them safe from cats. You all right there, Bunting? And finally, while I was in buying Willow, I also saw this book, which is hand-dyed yarn craft projects. This is by Debbie Tompkins, and it teaches you how to do the hand dyeing from first steps, but then also what to make with the hand dyes. So I don't, as I've said before, I'm not sure that dyeing is necessarily a step I'm ready to take at the moment, but at some point I would like to try my hand at making my own dyed yarn. I mean, it would be for personal use and maybe as to give as gifts to people. It wouldn't be on an industrial but scale. I'm not about to become an independent yarn dyer or anything like that. I don't have any pretensions in that direction whatsoever, but I'd like to be involved in the whole process. And I've said that before, I think. I just like the idea of being thoroughly involved. So, the elephant in the room behind me. I used to have the sofa here, which you're used to seeing. At the moment, I've got this armchair in here, but I'm actually planning to get rid of this. This is going back into the sitting room. I got rid of the sofa because I really needed better storage for my yarn, and I needed more space to do my actual crafting. Excuse me. Let me just have a drink of tea. Excuse me a second. So the purpose of getting this was really to get as much of the storage into a smaller area as possible. It has been fastened to the wall because my two lovely pussycats do like to climb in and snuggle up amongst all the different yarns that I have behind me. I've kind of gone for types rather than colour arrangements. I know different people organise their yarn in different ways, but I just think that the type of yarn is more useful to me than the colour. I'm not so fixated on having the right colour for a piece of work. It's more about having the right yarn. I'm quite flexible about colours. You'll notice though that there is a big group of Adriaphil yarns here, and that's because Masons were having a clearance sale of things that hadn't been selling and they couldn't get any more of, and these were all £1 a ball, so I didn't try very hard, but I couldn't really resist. So this is a lovely, I mean, I'd call this rhubarb and custard if I get one out. It's a cotton yarn, and I think it's, let me just put my glasses on. I'll put my other glasses on because I don't know where to put those now. I think it's, yes, it's 100% cotton. And I call this rhubarb and custard because the pinks and the yellows together just remind me of rhubarb and custard. Both the sweets and the pudding, which is a very, I guess, very English thing to have rhubarb and custard. And the other is, again, I think it's mainly cotton. Yes, this is 78% cotton, 17% nylon and 5% polyester. And the 5% polyester is actually sequins. And I think you can probably see the sequins throughout this. The virus shawl that Wendy made as part of the summer make along is a teal version of this. The sequins don't necessarily show up that well in the photograph, but when she holds it up, it just glimmers and glistens as she moves. And being cotton, it's a summer make as well, so she can wear that of an evening if she goes out, for example, to a barbecue or whatever, and just wants to have something on her shoulders, but doesn't necessarily want to wrap it warm because it's still the summer. On that, Wendy and I went into Mason's to buy our yarn on yarn shop day, which until we went in, we'd both forgotten it actually was yarn shop day. And because we made a purchase, we were given a ticket and we were entered into a prize draw. Excuse me a second. And rather amazingly, we both won. So our prize was a mystery bag, and in the mystery bag were 5 50-gram balls of a yarn, and we didn't know what they were until we opened them. So, sorry, what am I looking for? My glasses, which are here. So Wendy won the yarn that she made the virus shawl with, and I won. Oh, that's a thought. That's a thought that hadn't occurred to me until just then. Anyway, I won this beautiful Peter Pan Genie Aran weight yarn. It's a cotton yarn. I'm just looking for the actual content. Oh, it's not a cotton yarn. Sorry, it's 50%. Sorry, yes, hers was a cotton yarn. It's 50% polyamide and 50% acrylic. It's incredibly soft. And I have started making some lovely granny squares, and the granny squares really give you a sense of the tonal quality of the yarn. So there are 3 or 4 different shades of the lilac running through this, and it's really very pretty. And again, I've done a solid square here, and you can really see the range of colour and the tonal quality and the texture it brings to the finished object, or partly finished object in the case of the granny squares, because obviously they'll be made into a much larger square. So that's those, and I've caked some up, so I'm still using it. That's those first 2 made out of the 50-gram ball, and there's probably still half the ball left, so they'll probably get 4 or 5 granny squares of the size I'm making out of it. So that was a really nice way of celebrating local yarn shop day. Unfortunately, none of the big suppliers made any effort this year, which was a great pity, because shops like Mason's are a vanishing breed, and we need to cherish and promote the local supplier. I mean, I know I bought this online. I bought this online because it isn't available in local yarn shops anymore. David Bliss has now decided to stop selling through local yarn shops in the UK. And I got this really because it was on special offer and to make up the size of the parcel that I wanted, because I got something else which was not yarn related, and I got this as part of that deal. So it's very important that we don't lose sight of encouraging our local retailers to remain in business, because once they're gone and they'll never come back. And while it is possible to buy anything you want online, it's actually quite nice to be able to feel and look at and touch and talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about the different yarns that you could use for a project, for example. So I would encourage you all to use your local yarn shops. So I'm quite pleased with the way, I mean, I think it's a lovely colourful display, and it really brightens up this corner of the room and makes it far more a pleasure to sit in here and craft. So as I say, this armchair will be going. I'm going to have a smaller chair put in here, so that it's not dominating the space in the way that the armchair does. But just while I'm not well, I'm going to continue using the armchair in here, and eventually I'll move it back into the sitting room. So that's everything, I think, in terms of crafting. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what else is going on in my life. For those who are eagle-eyed, you'll realise that when I went into hospital on the 22nd, 21st of April, I hadn't actually podcasted for 2 weeks before that. I went back to work on the 9th of April, and a situation developed at work which is quite intense and is going to be quite involved. And so it has made me it's not put me in the right place where I wanted to be podcasting for those first 2 weeks, because there was a lot of pressure on me. I was under intense pressure, really. It's a very unpleasant situation. I can't talk more about it than that, but I would ask for your prayers and positive thoughts in resolving that situation. But it's now part of a bigger picture about, I'm 50 this year, and where do I see my life progressing over the next half century, God willing. Because if I want to do something different, now is the time to do it. So I have a few options available to me, all of which are quite exciting. So on a small scale, I have been chatting with Jeanette, who runs the Shake Shop, Willow Shake Shop in town, and she sells small items that people have made as gifts. So she's a shake shop, but she has this sideline of selling gifts, and it's their cards and pictures and bags and all kinds of things that people have made. And so I've got a few plans of things that I can be doing to sell through Jeanette's shop. Not to the point where they would make an income, a livable income for me, so that's not the intention. But it's a nice process. It's a kind of symbiotic process. It gives Jeanette things to sell in her shop, but it also gets my wares out there. And Wendy as well is making things that can be sold in the shop on a small scale, as I say, nothing major, but just the little bits and pieces, so that we can at least cover the cost of making the items. And enjoy the process of making things, even if we don't get recompensed fully for the time it takes to make the items. So it's not a business plan as such. It's just an outlet for our creativity. On top of that, I have been asked to give a crochet demonstration at the Clanfield Festival in September, which is quite exciting. And this has come about through my friend Mike, who is selling at the Clanfield Festival, and he put my name forward to the organiser saying that I could come and give crochet demonstrations, which they're very pleased that to offer that to people. So I'm putting together some samples like the granny squares, some samples of different types of stitches, simple things, and I'll take along some acrylic yarns and some hooks and maybe some cotton yarns as well, and just let people have a go at making things. So hopefully encouraging people to become crafters. Certainly the kind of people who go to the kind of event like the Clanfield Festival are predisposed towards home makes, and maybe even predisposed towards making things themselves. So, excuse me. I've also been offered a couple of business opportunities. One is there is a business, a tea shop business in the Cotswolds. So just moving slightly further northwest from where we are now, which both of these options are with my friend Mike. The village in particular is very popular with cyclists and walkers, and also with coach parties, but particularly with cyclists and walkers. And he hopes to offer some kind of ongoing facility in the tea room, but he'd need someone like me to run the tea room, and there is a big garage next to the tea room where he could actually base his sculpting of the wire art that he creates, and we could sell my items and his items in the shop. So that's one possibility. Another possibility that we're both quite interested in and are looking into is the possibility of moving to France, to Limousin. Again, it would be, there are several properties that we've seen where we could both have our own space, but there would also be the capacity to have some rooms for bed and breakfast. Again, very, very popular area with walkers and hikers, cyclists and hikers. So there is a market there that could be tapped. And again, we could produce our items for sale and have an online distribution business as well. So a number of exciting ideas in the pipeline. Although I'm facing quite a challenging time through work, it may not be the end of the world anyway. It may just be the kind of push I need to move on to the next part of my life. So, as I say, for those of you who are so minded, your prayers and your positive thoughts are very much welcomed. So one last thing before I go. You'll have seen the light bulb went on in my head as I was talking about Wendy's virus shawl. Of course, my other finished object is my virus shawl, which, again, those of you on Ravelry or Instagram will have already seen this. But this was made with the Katia Soleil cake. It's beautiful transition from fuchsia all the way through the rainbow to scarlet. I did 12 lines, I think, 12 repeats, which is a lovely sized shawl. And this is a present for somebody, so I'm not going to say anything more about it. But that was my other finished object that I didn't mention. The virus shawl is very simple. It's once you get into the rhythm of it, it's a very simple, repetitive pattern, but just different enough on each line that your interest is maintained. So it was a perfect pattern. So thank you to those who suggested it. It was very much an enjoyable process when I made that. Actually, I'll just talk about the yarn. I did mention the first time when I was talking about making this, when I just hooked on, that I was very perturbed at the number of knots in the yarn. Well, every time the colour changes, it was an abrupt change in that there were 4 strands in the yarn, and you'll notice it starts off all 4 of fuchsia, and then it starts to have 1 blue, and then there are 2 blue, and then there are 3 blue, and then the fuchsia turns to green, and then there are 2 green, and there are 3 green, and then the blue turns to yellow, and then it goes through into orange, and then finally into 4 red. So although every time there was a single strand changed colour, it was an abrupt change, it was tied with a knot. Because it was only the single strand of the 4 strands that are in each part of the thread, it really wasn't that noticeable. So I just stuck with the knots. I didn't bother unfastening them and trying to weave them in and all that kind of thing. I just left the little knots. They are virtually invisible. I can't actually tell you where any of the knots are, although I could probably work it out, because it will be where the colour changes. But I think the overall effect, you really don't notice them. So I can recommend the Katia Soleil. It isn't the cheapest yarn. It's a 50% wool, 50% acrylic. It's very soft. It's very nice to use. It smells delicious, which is unusual for an acrylic yarn, which generally doesn't seem to smell of anything very much. This has a real cottony smell to it. I've not blocked it yet. I will block it, although it won't block very much because the cotton doesn't really stretch. But I will block it before I give it as a gift, which will probably increase its size a little bit, but not excessively. And yeah, I thoroughly recommend it, really. As I say, it's not the cheapest yarn in the world, but overall I would recommend using the Katia Soleil yarn. So that, I think, is that. Other than to say, I have spoken to a couple of people, Jeanette, who runs Willow's Shake Shop, and Nikki, who is the crochet teacher at Mason's, and they have agreed to me doing an interview with them at some point in the near future. So that will be something that I hope to add in to an episode at some point. I'm not going to talk about anything non-yarn related today. I talked quite a bit about my health at the beginning of the process, and also the various options that I'm considering about my future as well. So as you can see, lots going on. I'm hoping now that I'm back in my weekly schedule, so I should podcast again at the weekend or early next week. So until then, stay happy, stay safe, stay well, and keep crafting. So bye for now.